Hi everyone, and welcome back to the Southerners Northern Gardens. So I know it's been a couple weeks. That's partly my fault because it's been extremely hot for a week, and then we had a lot of rain the next week, and there's just not a lot that's changed in the garden since then. You can see behind me I did get a few things in the ground this past weekend. That is golden ticket privet, and I put some things that I had potted up from last year in there. So we have a Kodiak black honeysuckle type bush. As you know, this is my rising sun redbud I have here. Some at-last roses, including the one that was in the front flower bed that was not doing very good. I went ahead and dug that up and transplanted it, and two smaller ones that I had you might can see blooming here. And I stuck a blue chiffon rose of Sharon just out of view. It's very tiny, it's only about a foot tall, but it'll grow nicely into this space next year. So what I wanted to talk about a little bit today, I got a couple other things to show you. But this is basically going to be the fall season of Marie Kondoing my garden. If you don't know who Marie Kondo is, she's the nice lady who will come into your home, organize all your stuff, ask you if an item sparks joy, and if it doesn't, ask you to dispose of it. So as I mentioned in a prior video, I am getting kind of over some of the perennials that I've put in the garden. A lot of them have served their purpose over the past year, specifically in this bed behind me. We have the 𝗟𝗶𝗸𝗲 that I absolutely love because it's a great pollinator, but I have it elsewhere in the garden as well, and in a patch this big, it is absolutely gorgeous for a few weeks when it blooms in the middle of summer. But after it's over, you can see it here, it's just a bunch of green foliage that looks really bad because it's been cut in half, and it will not rebloom this year. So I will probably be removing all of that 𝗟𝗏𝗛𝗄 since I have some elsewhere in the garden. I'm not terribly concerned about the pollinators because, as you know, I have a ton of flowers elsewhere in the garden. There will always be blooms in my garden, but specifically stuff like that that doesn't give any more show throughout the year. It also heavily self-seeds, and I don't want it coming up all throughout my garden. It was also super cheap. I paid $16 for around 60 𝗟𝗏𝗛𝗄s bulbs at Costco last March of 2020, and definitely got my money's worth out of them, so throwing them away doesn't hurt my feelings. Just behind there, you know, I also have some red hot poker, also known as 𝗟𝗏𝗶𝗸𝗲. I'm probably going to be removing that as well. I grew it from seeds, so I also am not very attached to it. It blooms inconsistently. This year, specifically, it bloomed and then it almost completely died to the ground, which is very odd. It didn't happen the year before. But because it doesn't provide a lot of interest over the season, I'm going to be removing that. So pretty much everything behind this hydrangea you see here that is not a shrub is going to get Marie Kondoed and removed from my garden and thrown away. What I'm going to be replacing these perennials with are strategically placed shrubs that stay smaller. I mentioned in a prior video as well, when I brought up my issue with some perennials, that there are a lot of great shrubs that stay super, super tiny and provide nice foliage interest throughout the season, even if they don't bloom. So I'm going to be incorporating more of that into my garden, along with some more textures like grasses, now that I have this entire space back here to plant up. So my intentions with this space specifically is I will probably do some stepping stones right behind me to just walk around the willow, because otherwise it will be difficult to get into this bed throughout the season if I don't have some footpath or traffic area to go through there. As you know, it will be fenced in and fully enclosed back to the corner back there. So other than that footpath, I shouldn't need a chance to get back there, but it also might be nice to walk around there because I can add some plants later as stuff fills in. I would like to plant some stuff around the back of the fence, probably some tall grasses that will grow up and provide some extra privacy along the fence line back there. One thing specifically I'm going to be focusing on is evergreen interest. I have mentioned this in prior videos. It became really evident to me when my parents were here early in the year around April, and it was barren. And then the next month in May, after everything popped out of the ground, they were like, we were just there and none of this was there. So I need more winter interest and winter structure, which is something I will be showing you here in a bit. Speaking to winter interest, I have almost 200 shrubs showing up this week, which they're small shrubs. So that's one thing I like to focus on. My garden and my channel specifically is taking small plants and letting them grow on. Part of that is because I have heavy clay soil and it's difficult to dig in. And if you hit a really bad patch of clay soil, it can be difficult for the plant, and the plant can struggle because of holding water. So the smaller the hole, the better, and they can grow into the natural clay soil. and root in well that way. So most of the shrubs I'll be getting, like I said, there's almost 200 of them. Not all of them are evergreen. 80 to 85% of them are. So there's boxwoods, inkberry hollies, some ilexes, which I just found out today might ship a little later, and some 𝗟𝗶𝗸𝗲. So specifically tater tot 𝗟𝗶𝗸𝗲, because it stays, you know, 1.5 to 2 foot tall and wide. I'm going to put a hedge of those along the flower bed here. And then I have a ton of sprinter boxwoods that are arriving. I will fit those around one of the flower beds as well. Gem box inkberry holly and strong box inkberry holly. So some of those may go along the back of the fence. Once again, these are all going to be super small, so they're going to be like the quart size containers, and it will take them a couple years to get going. But I specifically picked those because I want winter interest while also needing something small that stays relatively small or that can be pruned to maintain a small shape. I have purchased the trees that I'm going to put along this side of the fence. I will be picking those up this weekend. Those ended up being an oak called Kindred Spirit. It is one of the skinniest trees you can get besides a sweet gum, so it will get at max maybe 6 foot wide, 35 foot tall, but that's over its lifespan, so it's going to grow super slow. The trees I'm putting in don't look like a whole lot. They are quite tall, but they don't have a lot of limb structure to them yet. So I will be doing 5 of those trees along this fence line, and I'll take you along when I plant those and pick those up. I will probably be putting in front of that a hedge of evergreens and planting some other shrubs along the fence border between the trees and the evergreens and along the fence line in general. So behind me, I've got to fill in with some more shrubs. I'm going to end up putting those Tough Stuff 𝗂𝗏 hydrangeas right here. I have a few more things to put here. I'm getting in some barberry, non-invasive barberry. I had somebody bring up that comment on my channel before. Barberry cannot be sold in a lot of states. I think Indiana specifically is one of them, which is right next door. But Proven Winners has a great line of barberry called Sunjoy, and they are non-invasive, so they do not spread readily at all. And so they stay super tiny, 1 to 2 foot tall and wide, as I mentioned. So I'm going to be putting those in front of the golden ticket privet. So it'll be a very nice red-orange texture right next to that yellow, and I think it will make a great statement. I've also tried to pick shrubs that don't require a whole lot of maintenance, so they should hardly ever need to be trimmed. The boxwoods I will be mostly forming into a hedge, so those will need to have a little upkeep here and there. But I'm not opposed to trimming boxwoods, you know, once or twice a year. So there's one more thing I want to show you in the garden before I call it a day, and I'm going to take you over there and show you that right now. And here it is. I decided to put a moon gate in my garden because I would like to grow some roses up on it. It goes along with having some winter interest in the garden, as I mentioned. So although what I will be growing on it will not be blooming in the winter, at least there's some structure here in the back middle of the garden. So I got this moon gate from Kinsman Garden. It is the smaller size. I believe it's 84 by 84 inches. So it's still quite large. However, in all things typical with the Southerners, Northern Garden, and me, it was delayed. It was back ordered. I ordered it at the beginning of August. I received it last week on Tuesday, and it was raining, so of course I couldn't put it together. And then Wednesday rolled around and it wasn't raining, and I got really excited to come out here and put it together. And then I got it all assembled, and then one piece didn't fit together, so I couldn't put it together. And so I called Kinsman's line. They're available 24/7 on their customer support, and they were great. I left a message, and they actually got it shipped out the next day, so Thursday morning, and it actually arrived Sunday. I wasn't expecting to get it at all Sunday, mainly because it was the day before Labor Day, and I didn't even think FedEx was running. But I got it Sunday, I assembled it Sunday, and got it placed Monday on Labor Day, and I think it looks absolutely great. So I'm going to be in front of the moon gate putting 2 boxwood, probably not topiaries. I would love to find a boxwood ball topiary, but they're really difficult to find in my area, any type of topiary boxwoods. So what I'll probably be doing is putting boxwood cones there, just so, once again, for that evergreen interest. And then along the front of the border here, I might have to bring the border out a little bit and edge it a little more. And I will probably be carrying the tater tot 𝗟𝗶𝗸𝗲 on along right here to my stone pathway. And the tater tot 𝗟𝗶𝗸𝗲 are obviously going to go on the other side of the moon gate to the shed, which we got completely primed and ready for painting this weekend. I will show you that right now. So it's all white, it's getting ready to be painted. I mentioned we will be painting that a gray and black color, so I'm really excited for that project to be done. There's been so many projects this year. We're still getting our windows replaced because they're in desperate need of replacement. The fence has still got to be installed, and I have to create these 2 beds along the side of the fence here. As I mentioned in a prior video, because the fence, I'm not sure when it's going to be installed in the next month and a half, I'm going to go ahead and start putting in those beds this week or this weekend. I actually put down landscape fabric over here already to start killing off the grass. I actually got in the landscape fabric to put down over here. I got a 3-foot size instead of a 5-foot size because I don't need that much space from the existing property line. Interestingly enough, UPS lost my package for my landscape fabric as well, so it has not been a good shipment experience for Matthew the past, whole year. Along with some items in this garden I'll be removing, I may be removing the butterfly bush. I've mentioned in a garden tour that is called a bicolor butterfly bush, but I have never experienced anything bicolor about it. I mean, it might be two-tone, like a yellow and purple, but it's not giving me the effect I wanted it to get, and it also would have to be moved anyway. It's getting too large for that location. I knew it would. I didn't expect it to grow this quickly, and it is, so I may be giving that to a friend when they come visit next week. This past weekend I went to get rock to put under the Moon Gate arch, and they were closed because it was the Saturday before Labor Day. Don't these landscaping companies know that home gardeners want to do landscape and gardening work on a 3-day weekend? At least I do. So what I'm going to put here, as you know, I love these natural stone paths in my garden. The rock place next to me has these really, really large, thin flagstone type material, and it's like 3 foot by 4 foot. I want to keep large, thin stone there because I will be taking the gorilla cart back and forth along this path to go back to the mini orchard, and I don't want to upset smaller stones. So that's definitely something that I'm going to focus on here, is larger stones, and then I'm going to interplant it with dwarf mondo grass between the cracks, so it will be just a nice solid path to walk back there on, and very sturdy. My zinnias are finally blooming, although they don't look absolutely amazing, and I'm actually going to be getting in some wee white hydrangeas, and I'm going to be turning this circle of boxwood that I originally mentioned that I would probably be putting into tight spheres. I am actually going to make a perfectly symmetrical hedge around this maple here. So what I'm going to be doing is planting in the center of these sprinter boxwood, and it'll be a good experiment to see the rate of growth between these wintergreen and these sprinter boxwoods. Sprinter boxwoods grow incredibly quickly. So just to give you an idea of the sprinter boxwoods growth, these were 1 quart size boxwoods last March. I brought them in and to replace the wintergreens that had significantly died off that are now planted around the maple that's recovered a little bit. But these are bigger than the 1 gallon shrubs that I put in last fall, and so they are acclimating much quicker and growing much quicker than the 1 gallon shrubs. Now these do get more sun than the 1 gallon boxwood I have up there, so that may be part of it. But just as an FYI, if you're looking at getting boxwood, I would certainly recommend the sprinters. They're a little more resistant to boxwood blight, which terribly concerns me. Even though I'm putting more boxwood in my garden, I still want that boxwood blight resistance in case it becomes an issue in my area. So having sprinter boxwood in this area will allow me to form a hedge a little quicker over the next couple years maybe, along with these wintergreens, and it'll be kind of a mix of wintergreen and sprinter, and wintergreen and sprinter boxwood look so similar, so I don't think you'll be able to tell that there's a difference. We'll have to see how they color up in winter, but I think it will be an interesting experiment nonetheless. Check out these gorgeous zinnias. I do need to come in and spray some fungicide again on these. Due to some odd sprinkler placement, there's a sprinkler that's like right over here. It kind of hits these zinnias really hard. As you can see, these on the backside are much taller than those up there, and I think that's part of the issue. They're just getting hit really, really hard with a sprinkler head a couple times a week, and they just do not like it, and they tend to be exhibiting more fungal issues than the rest of the zinnias. Down here I have placed 𝗟𝗶𝗸𝗲 These are tiny, tiny shrubs as well. They'll only get, 1.5, 2 foot tall and wide, and I just wanted to kind of amass here of those. There are a total of 8. In the rest of this area, I'll probably be planting a plant called 𝗟𝗶𝗸𝗲. It is a evergreen that has yellow foliage that can take sun to part sun, so over time, as this maple gets larger, they should transition pretty well, even though they may lose a little of that yellow color as it becomes more shady. But I just really love having that nice evergreen element that's also yellow. My sweet Caroline redbud is leafing back out after struggling so much with the summer heat. As you can see, it emerges like this pink red color. This is still probably not its typical colors. As it acclimates next year, it'll do a better job. But it ends up having these variegated leaves, which also still don't look the best, but they are tiny, tiny baby leaves. Nearly all the leaves, I guess all the leaves on it that it came with fell off. There's a couple left, but it struggled a lot because it didn't have much of a root system when I got it from the place I ordered it from. I believe it was field dug, and so when it came to me, it wasn't rooted into its container, and that's the only thing I can guess. They pulled it out of a field, stuck it in a container for shipment, and it arrived to me without much of a root system that had been extremely damaged, and I stuck it out here in the really hot heat. But it's surviving well since I put it on drips, so it'll look great next year. It's got a little drooping habit here that's really beautiful. So I'm excited to see how this one grows up over time. I will be planting a lot of roses under here. I think I'm putting the Oh So Easy double pink here. I did help my neighbor install some of those last year, and they bloomed nonstop all summer. So I'm going to be repeating that on my own property back here, and we'll have the row of the tater tot arborvitae right here. And then something a little controversial for some people might be, but I am putting Liriope all around the edge here. The variety is called Big Blue. It's supposed to be a really great variety, and I just want something, again, that's pretty low maintenance, that also provides some nice texture and is a low forefront to build up here. I still haven't decided what I'm going to put along the fence. I think I'm going to need the fence to be installed first before I make that decision. I've considered putting more of the totem pole grass that I have over here. I've had several comments on, so I think a hedge of this totem pole grass would be really beautiful. You can see it's getting its seed heads here as fall approaches, but it's just a beautiful blue element, and I think it would contrast nicely with the green arborvitae in front of the black fence. I grew several dahlias from Florette's Dahlia seed mix earlier this year, and I wasn't exactly impressed with the ones I've got. That's been my experience with growing dahlias from seed. I don't recommend it, but this one just started blooming, and it's actually gorgeous, so I will actually probably save the tuber for that one. This is the one that I wanted to show everyone. Isn't this weird? It's only got, on average, 3 petals. It's one of the weirdest flowers I've ever seen, and it would be interesting to keep just as a statement piece maybe, but it's not exactly beautiful. So when you grow dahlias from seed, you never know what you're going to get. This is a variety I saved last year from seed. Also not beautiful. It just loses its petals really quickly, so it's not good in a vase at all. But this one is a pleasant surprise. I did end up getting my last blueberries in, so I have an officially 5 blueberries in this bed. This one that I picked up is Jelly Bean. It's supposed to have some of the biggest berries of this bushel and berry blueberry series, and I use those as the end cap for these little shrubs. I'm going to come back and cut this blueberry back significantly because it looks so bad. Those are the ones that I had in the ground that I replaced with the boxwood. And they're actually looking much better than they were in the ground. But this is one of my favorites. I think I've mentioned it's called Pink Icing. You can see that beautiful pink new growth. Great in the landscape, but it'll do quite well here in this container, I think. I have heard several other gardeners mention that they have had a really late dahlia year. I would also like to repeat that. My dahlias are just now starting to really put on growth. This one's called Pin Hill Watermelon. Gorgeous. You can see how big that bloom is there compared to my hand. I need to come back here and do some deadheading, but you can see a lot of these blooms around here are still pretty beautiful. I need to come through and deadhead, as I mentioned, but also I still never got around to moving around these tags based on the mixes that I got, so I need to do that as well. Here's another gorgeous bloom. You'll have to excuse some of the weediness because I need to come back here and seriously weed this area, but I have grown more watermelon this year from 2 plants than I have ever grown before, and they're just massive. We already have one inside. You can see how big this one is. Compared to my hand, it was delicious. So this one's pretty much ready to come out too. They say when the tendril dries up around the watermelon, it should be ready. This one, it's got a little dry spot right here. And then when the next one dries, and also check the field spot. If it's yellowing and brown, then it's about ready. But we have 1, 2, there's a tiny one, there's more up there. And then I have a different one over here. I believe it's 𝗟𝗶𝗸𝗲𝗲, and it's down here. And there's another one over there. So many watermelon, I don't know what I'm gonna do. And that's it, everyone. I just wanted to kind of take you around to see what's changed in the last couple weeks and give you a picture of what's gonna be coming ahead. I certainly think that this winter I am going to enjoy the break from the garden, because there's gonna be so many things I've got to put in the ground between now and our first frost that I'm going to be utterly exhausted, and I'll probably never want to hear the word shrub again, at least for a few more months, let's be honest. But that's it, everyone, and thanks for joining along in the Southerners Northern Garden. I'll speak with you soon. Bye, everyone.